Hey guys, hope you're doing well. This is Tim, and I'm coming back at you with another video, and it's Animation Friday! Woohoo! I don't know if that's what the name of the show is going to be, but for right now, it's Animation Friday. So, for this week and a bit of next week, I'm going to be teaching you guys, especially those who don't know, about walk cycles and how to do them. With this week, we're just going to focus on the lower body. We're not going to worry about the upper body. And the lower body is really important because what happens with the stride and the tempo of the hips, that really defines the entire energy and emotion of the walk. A majority of that comes from the lower body. This is kind of like a supplement in a weird way, but obviously, in order to have a successful walk, you really need to have all of it looking good. But for this week, just down here. So the first thing you should focus on, and as you notice here, I have these keys. I'm actually going to move these guys around a bit. I'm going to put uh, the main keys, the quote-unquote storytelling keys, on frame 13 and 1. Now I also have this in 24 frames per second, which means every 24 frames equals 1 second of footage. So I'm putting on frame 13 because from 1 to 13 is 12 frames. That's half a second in this case. And almost all humans naturally walk at 1 step per half second. We're going to be basically making a mechanic kind of basic walk, so we're going to keep this as simple as possible. It's also really nice when you're working on like 12 frame steps that it's really nice to kind of dice up the keyframes here. So I'll show you what I mean. So the halfway point between 1 and 13 is going to be frame 7, and obviously this is the middle key of the 5, so we're going to put that there. And then we're going to put that on frame 10 because 7, 10, 3 is a 3 space difference, and then obviously that goes on 4. So the first pose that we're going to worry about is the main contact pose, when one foot is in front and the heel is basically rolled upwards. The other foot is in the back and it's basically curled and about to take off the ground. So basically, with this, we want to leave that on that. Now also, I'm going to open up our little graph editor here. And I'm just going to quickly, I'm kind of messing up here, but I'm going to basically keep that translation and that rotation of translate Z and X on rotation throughout all of them. We're not going to touch those two for right now. So basically, the first thing that we want to focus on is the vertical movement, because when you walk, there's a reason why it's called graceful falling. Basically, your body goes up, and as you take a step forward, you roll forward, and then you go down, and then you build up the energy to go back up to take another step. So typically with contact poses, this is the basic neutral pose because this is when the legs are split. The secondary pose is the down pose because after you take a step, your energy goes down. So we're going to push that really far just to show some exaggeration. Let's go 5. The middle pose is the passing pose, which is in typical cases just a little bit higher than our main contact pose, which we have on 1. Frame 10 will be the up pose, which is up here. I'll put that as like a 0.4. And then the last pose is a repeat of the first pose that we have, however, everything opposite because the opposite leg is forward and the rotation will be backwards. So basically, as we look at this, we kind of have this little motion going on right there. And we press play, doot-doot-doot, doot-doot-doot. Kind of looks weird for right now, but you'll see it being built over time. So basically, with that, we're also going to, on frame 1, have the hips rotated forward. Because as a leg steps forward, hips have to rotate forward to show that energy. So now when we get this, we kind of get a doot-doot-doot, and it rotates. And then obviously when it takes a step back, we'll mirror. Again, I'll get to that. Now also, again, this is why we love hips. With how this is rotated, especially with that side forward, it means the right leg is forward, which means when we take a step forward with this left leg, it's going to come off the ground. Now, the hips will also need to shift to that side. I won't do that yet, but also what I'll do when I get to that is these have to rotate down. Basically, when we walk, we're extremely lazy, and we kind of drag our leg forward when we take a step. It looks a little bit weird right here, but I will fix that up for us. So what we're going to do next is that we're going to leave this here for right now. But before I go on, I'm going to go to frame 25. I'm going to copy our first key to 25. And then what I will do is I will copy 10 to 15. Whoop, wait, did I mess that up? Yes, I did. I will copy 10 to 16, 7 to 19, and 4 to 22. So that way, we have it rotating backwards.
So we have it on that side, rotating that way. We have that side, rotating it back. And we get to keep that Y tempo. At least I think so. Oh, nope, nope. That's how we messed up. So we're going to copy 4 to 16. And we're going to copy that Y translation. We're going to copy the up pose of 10 onto 22. Because the verticality stays the same throughout, it's just the rotation that we have to mirror back and forth. So if we press play, now we're also going to work on one leg because in this basic sense, if we get one leg looking well, we can copy the values from one leg to the other. It's a nice way to save time. So with this, we're going to put a frame on pretty much the same poses as that. So what I'll do is just to get there faster, boop, 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 boop. There we go. So the good thing about this pose is that this is where the leg has made contact with the ground. So you keep your heel up, and you want to try and get all this stuff first just so you don't have to redo any work. We can add a little bit of toe bend right there. We also want to push it a little bit farther out to the side, especially since it's a male, it has to make room for packages. Anyway, and then we also want to rotate a little bit for the Y direction. We can make it kind of more goofy. The farther you go at, the goofier it gets. So let's say like a value of like 16. Then we got to move that forward because we want to make sure that with the contact, that's straight. We can play with that, but let's say that's good for right now. Let's say that's our prima donna walk. That's exactly what we want out of it. So that's basically our contact where the heel's on the ground. By the down pose, it would assume this position where it is gone from rotation to downwards. So this is actually pretty good. And basically, what I'll do is I'll go to this pose, which is the opposite contact pose. And this is when it's about to roll off the ground. So I get the ball roll. Let's say that's good. So it goes from there to there. In our walk, it goes from there to there. Let's just say that's good. And even if we mess up, hey, it's fun experimentation, right? It's for the kids. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all these. I'm going to make sure that we keep that X rotation the same. And I'm also going to grab the Y, and I'm going to make sure our Y rotations stay the same. Oh, if they want to actually change. There we go. Now, the cool thing that happens is that, especially in cycles like this, where the walk is kind of happening in place, what we can do is that we can go into the Translate Z channel, we can delete the middle keys there, and then we can grab the first key and throw it in linear. We can also grab the back of that, throw it in linear. That way, as it's on the ground, actually, you know what? Just to make this playback look okay. Basically, what'll happen is that because it's made contact with the ground, in real life it won't go anywhere, so we want to make sure it has this equal motion going back to the roll-off point. So keeping it linear in a cycle will make sure that it keeps a relatively equal position to the other parts around it. Other than that, basically, it would roll down there. It would stay in that kind of same roll-down position of those values right there. Obviously, the leg here is a little bit broken, so we're probably going to have to lower the hips a little bit. And then by the up pose, it's going to start rolling around the up pose. So we're going to add a little bit of value there. So basically, rolled for contact, 0 for the ground, or for the down pose, 0 for the passing, and a little bit of roll for the up pose. And then a lot more roll for the other contact pose. So what we're going to do to make sure that these poses look pretty is that we're going to go here, and that we're just going to drop these down a bit. Now remember, this is the passing pose. This is when all the weight of the hips is on top of that foot. So we want to make sure that this leg is straight during the passing pose. And what we're also going to do, just to dive into this territory, is we're going to grab the hips, and we're just going to move it right on top of the leg. Now we don't want to move it exactly on top. Pretty much just kind of showing this is that to know if the hips are going too far, basically the center of the hips will line up with the center of the foot in a horizontal fashion. So if you're going other than that, like farther than that, then you're going to be off balance. So you want to make sure that, you know, the hips go over a bit, maybe not too far. So let's just say that's good enough. And then we also want to rotate in the Z axis a bit because we're going to have our lazy leg coming in. So let's say 1 and 5 are good there. So basically, we have all that kind of layered out, and kind of looking at our hip to leg ratio. We have the hips forward with the leg in contact. We have it in down where we have a bit of a bend and the hips are going back. We have it in passing where the leg is straight and the hips are on top of the leg the one leg that is standing on the ground only, with it rotated down for the back leg. Then we have it in an up pose, which, ooh, we might need to play with that a little bit, because we want the up pose straight as well. Maybe we can actually play with the hips itself. There we go, and that way we'll have a little bit more of a curve into that. So, for the most part, that's pretty much the foot on the ground. Other than that, we also have the foot up in the air, because it has to take a bloody step. What is a walk without taking steps? So, we're going to make the poses here. Well, the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to make frame 1 the same as frame 25, because we want this to end and begin the exact same way. That's why they're called cycles. So then we're going to put a frame on 16 and 19 and 22 because we keep that 3 spacing. So with the down pose taking a step, we're going to zero out these keys real quick. We want to judge the last step we were on. Now typically, what will happen, I'm going to keep the translations. Oh, not the name. I'm going to keep those translations. My computer does not want to explode on me. There we go. And instead of ball roll, we're going to do toe roll. Because at this point, the heel has made contact with the floor on the down pose, and this is about to take off. Now, when you use toe roll, sometimes it moves a little bit forward from that little toe pivot position. So let's say that's good. And then we're just going to grab a translation. We're going to go back and forth between these two, and we're going to just move it back just to try and get that toe from this point right here looking about the same. So let's say that's good. Then with the passing pose, obviously the leg has to pass the other leg. So we're going to kind of make a little shape like this. It's almost like a 90 degrees or a 45 degrees, depending how extreme you want it. Add a little toe bend if we want to. I think there's toe bend on that. Nope, no toe bend there. So we can bring it just a little bit forward, bring it a little bit up. Sometimes natural walks, the leg will actually kind of hang a bit. We'll go put it there. Whoop, bring it a little bit more forward. And with the up pose, this is when we really get like a 90-degree angle. So what I do is that we're going to zero these out. And we also can judge it with the last pose. We can kind of go back and forth between all these to figure out what we want. This is kind of like a stomp. He's doing like a little jazz kick out. Yeah, da, yeah, da. So we're going to lower that a little bit and make it a little bit natural. So it's not so much as a 90-degree, but we do have that kind of impression there. And again, it's the up pose, so that's kind of the highest part of the walk. So we're going to kind of straighten that out. Toe bend there. And then, and look at that. We got a nice step. It's a little bit poppy, but let's say that's good. Let's just say that's perfect and dandy. What we're also going to do is that we're going to copy, like I said earlier, copy all these values, grab the other leg, and we are going to paste. I'm going to stretch this out. It's because these are the same, and because every step is half a second, I'm going to move all these keys there, so that basically it rolls back where it would have begun. And then because we're only working with 25 keys, I'm going to copy that frame to there. And I'm going to grab all these guys over here. I'm going to move them back. See? Just finding different ways to save time. So let's see how that looks real quick. And then we will throw all that in a step. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Don't mind me. So we're going to grab all these, throw in a step. And if we play it out, it looks a little bit funny. It's probably because I messed up right there. Let's see what I did. Ah, there we go. That's what I did. I forgot about this. That's what happens when you try to step everything. Now we'll have a little bit of janky movement, especially when it's on the ground like that. But for the most part, look at that. We have our hips rotating. We have our legs moving backwards. We have a little bit of some floppy action and some expression. And that's how you do a basic walk for the lower body. And next week, we're going to focus on the upper body. So thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to leave any comments. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!